It certainly wasn't pretty, but UCLA improves to 1-1 in the Maui Invitational. And, it had to be, right? Only UCLA and Gonzaga would find a way to play. We're not talking about that today. We're going to talk about the ugly way UCLA won against Chaminade here on Locked On UCLA.
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to this edition of the Locked On UCLA podcast. I'm your host, Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer. Thanks for making the show your first listen each and every day. It's free wherever you get your podcast, and it's available on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe, your team every day. Hey, we're talking basketball. It's feast week. I know the Bruins dominated SC. We got to remind you guys, 38-20. Yeah. Paint that bell blue after you beat the Trojans. But it's a big week for Mick Cronin's bunch, a growing week for UCLA hoops. And then, hey, you got the likes of Better K eligible to play in this battle across some top-tier teams, although they did play a D2 team in the Chaminade Silverswords. And UCLA handled them easily when you look at the final score, 76-48. Anything but in a game that got as close as 10 points with 14 minutes remaining. Despite UCLA leading this game 28-4 to start, they could not put away the Silverswords. 14 turnovers, a lot of that in the first half, 18 turnovers overall. Mick Cronin was barking. He was absolutely barking. But let's take a step back. Let's think about this. They played the late game, and then they had to play the noon game the next day. A late emotional game with guys still early on in the season. We can talk about conditioning and everything. It's still early in the season. And if the Bruins are going to ride Better K as much as they did in his first game of action in 23-24, everybody who was playing close to 30 minutes in a tight rotation for Mick Cronin's bunch absolutely was a bit gassed. And UCLA got a lot of players in this game. I believe, 12 players saw at least a minute plus in this game. And here UCLA winning this one 76-48. There's not too much to talk about other than one. It looked ugly. Mick Cronin was not happy. One, with the fact that his post players got ripped. It was Bona with Mar in the starting lineup. Getting back in the starting lineup was the 7'3" Spaniard. Badake with 24 minutes outplayed in terms of minutes-wise Adaimata in terms of minutes, but he came off the bench. Dylan Andrews, 30 minutes, did not shoot as efficiently as he has to start the year, especially from three. Sebastian Mack, 16 points on 15 shots. Got to work on his efficiency, but the Bruins did like to see him score some more points. Lazar Stefanovic, 13 points, 3 of 5 from 3. I like those numbers. And one thing we have to look at, Sebastian Mack didn't close out in that 3 against Marquette. Maybe a little bit lackadaisical defensively for what Mick Cronin likes, but they need his scoring. In Game 2 of the Maui Invitational, 5 steals of 10 UCLA steals, forcing 13 Chaminade turnovers. So the Bruins forced turnovers. You read if you're on the YouTube thing, it says UCLA rebounds with win, right? They out-rebounded Chaminade 55-24. Outshot them 48% to 25%. And yet, one of the biggest things was UCLA was very sloppy at the basketball, turned it over more, and were very quiet for a large stretch of this game. They had very quiet stretches. They've had that throughout this year. They struggle. They play to the level of their competition is what it's looking like. 4 wins, 3 mid-majors in the D2, a non-D1, and then should have probably beaten a number 4 top 5 team in the country in Marquette, where Kansas and Marquette, the number 1 team in the country, are interesting. So the highs and the lows, where it seems like you're playing Kansas, the number 1 team in the country, 1 minute, a 12-0, 17-0 run. All of a sudden, you're playing Chaminade, a lot less rest, a team that has not fully played together other than 1 game less than 24 hours prior. And they're already very young, learning a Mick Cronin system where he has little patience. Mick Cronin has little patience for anything. Lack of excellence, lack of hustle, lack of deflections and defensive intensity. He has little patience. He even said so in the post-game press conference. I was disappointed. He didn't say this verbatim. He did not say this verbatim. I'm going to try and pull this up And hey, he talks about he was disappointed that the lack of respect his team got, that they could play defense or they would have to be intense defensively. How they played against Marquette, how they weren't ranked in the preseason despite the recruiting class. So he is taking that. He's going to run with it. He's going to find a way. But he's feeling the disrespect. He doesn't care, but he totally cares. I knew UCLA would be a scrappy team. It would not look pretty at a lot of moments this year. I was fairly confident they were a top 25 team. I'm confident UCLA is, especially after that performance. I've said especially 50 times, especially after that game against Marquette. And here we are wondering, why do they look so sluggish against non-top tier teams? That's what you're going to get with a young, growing roster that still has a lot to look at, right? Talk about the energy in this game. Sebastian Mack, I believe, 13 for 13 shooting free throws against Marquette. Did not attempt a single free throw, but took 15 shots against Chaminade. You would think he could drive to the hole if he had a lot of energy, if the whistles were blowing, and he didn't get to the free throw line once. After hitting 13 free throws the night before, did not get there once. And I know he had to go into more takeover mode against the Golden Eagles to fight back into that game. And with Andrews back on the floor a little bit more in this game than after he missed a stretch where Marquette came back in the first game of the Maui Invitational. Did not get to the free throw line, but he did have 5 steals, 6 boards, 3 assists. So stat stuffing freshman night for Sebastian Mack, who's got to work on efficient shooting, take a lesson from sophomore point guard Dylan Andrews, and eventually the Bruins will get a lot better because of it. I did like Lazar's night because he's going to play 31, 35 minutes a night, and the Bruins are probably going to see a good number in his plus minus. Mick Cronin referenced how good the Bruins are when he's on the court, how stable they are when he sticks himself on the floor, even though he fouled out, played 31 minutes. Now it sets up a date with Gonzaga. Only these two schools, especially words, they would find a way. We knew they'd find a way to play each other. I would have hoped it was in the championship game. I would have loved to see UCLA play Gonzaga, or anybody in the championship game, if they'd gotten through Marquette and then Kansas to play either top 10, number 2 team in the country if they were going to play Purdue. Whatever. That's not happening. Yet here we are, UCLA, Kansas, again in the next season, second time this calendar year. And it felt like that game 1 against Marquette was the Gonzaga game over. Not the same script, but similar feeling, similar ending with the 3 and a couple of close cracks at the ends. Now you get to play them again. It's a different team. Both teams are different, right? Different teams between Gonzaga and UCLA. They are. Coaches are still there. Programs very relevant. Expecting high things from both sides, one reason or another. In this day and age of conference realignments, those two teams should make a home-and-home series. We don't need that this year. We get a neutral site battle in Hawaii to prove who is this year's West Coast dominant force leading into a battle with Arizona later in the Pac-12. UCLA 76-48, 4-1 overall. They get Gonzaga. It'll drum up feelings of old from March. How it's already been 8 months, I don't know. And we hope the Bruins smack them in the mouth and finish off 2-1. Finishing 2-1 in the Maui Invitational, yes, I know they played Chaminade. That would go leaps and bounds for this Bruins team. If they don't, still a 1-2 performance, and you look like last year's team in Vegas, where they lost 2 games. Mick Cronin worked on them. They didn't lose for 2 months. That could very well happen in this tournament and as the repercussions. We'll find out. They weren't tough with the ball down low. They're still learning to shoot, 31% from 3, taking 22 threes. They did rebound the basketball, but very sloppy, looking like a young team that needs to grow. And Mick Cronin, limited patience. Can't wait to talk with you after the Gonzaga game. A lot of thoughts. Got to have a lot of thoughts after that one. Late tip. So I can't wait for that UCLA game. Gonzaga, they beat Chaminade, 1-1 in the tourney, 4-1 overall. Go Bruins. These days, every potential new hire feels like a high-stakes wager because you want to be 100% certain you have access to the best qualified candidates available, which is why you should check out LinkedIn Jobs. helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free, which is why you can use screening questions to get the right candidates to initially hire that event, and by going through the vetting process, going through and finding those people you want to interview first. That's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. All you got to do is post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Prize Picks, the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. Easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports, just you against the numbers. All you got to do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you can watch your winnings literally roll in. They've got specials leagues where you can combine combo projections from the NFL, from the NBA, like LeBron James, Kelsey, all sorts of things when they're not a little injured or playing in the rain. You can get a 10.5 combo on 3-pointers made and receptions between those two players and watch 2 games on multiple sports. Check that out. You can go play with an injury reboot policy. Not many platforms have an injury reboot policy. It's the only daily fantasy sports with an injury insurance policy. Prize Picks? Yeah. That's the way to go. So all you got to do is go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege, $100 match. Daily fantasy sports made easy.
You are Locked On UCLA.
Oops. Your boy is having a world of a time. Well, technical glitches messing with the end there, but hey, it is what it is. It is what it is. Just like UCLA, a little sloppy at the end. Hey, sometimes I have a show just like the team plays. If you want to feel like how the team feels, just watch and listen to the show, because sometimes you get it, you're like, man, why am I feeling down with this? I'll try to bring up the energy. Sometimes a little technical difficulty, just like the Bruins were. A little glitchy against Chaminade. At the end here, a little glitchy. Hopefully they're not that against Gonzaga. Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer signing off. Hands up, Bruins fans. 8 clap time, baby. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. UCLA. UCLA fight. This has been Locked On UCLA. Go Bruins.